So welcome everyone to the Kaʻao discussion series. Today we'll be focusing on Hoʻi. And thank you Hōkūlani Holt and John Villarimo for presenting for us today. And we look forward, you know, Hōkūlani, you always have such wonderful things to share with us. So thank you Hōkūlani and John. Oh, I'm sorry, Hōkūlani, you're muted.
Wait. Okay. So good morning. What is it? Good afternoon. The days and the times run together sometimes, don't they? I gotta look out my window to go, okay, what time of day? Is it getting dark yet and I'm still in my office? Or are we okay? We still have sunlight outside. So welcome this afternoon to our next Hawaii Papo Kaʻao. And I really appreciate these faces that I see in front of me, all of you, many of you who have come every single time, and many of you who have slugged through some of this information with us for a long while or a semi-long while. And maybe, I'm trying to look, maybe some of you that this might be your first time, and all of which I would welcome you to this. So I am going to share my screen. So aloha mai kākou. If you don't know that we're here to discuss the Kaʻao framework, the Hoʻi section, you're in the wrong place. Yeah, so if you're in the wrong place, you can leave or please stay, and we can talk story a little bit. Some of these slides, for those of you who have been with me before, are quite similar at the beginning as we catch people up on where we are, and then we will continue to move forward. So the Kaʻao framework comes out of the system-wide initiative that is throughout all of the universities and the colleges. So Hawaii Papo Kaʻao is a system-wide initiative developed for the university to help make it a leader in Indigenous education. It helps to develop policies and initiatives that support the groundwork needed to help and foster student success and leadership. Native Hawaiian values are in and practiced throughout all levels of the institutional decision making. There are basically three thematic goals and objectives that are listed for each goal. So I'm going to say the three goals, and then if you want to find out more, you just go to the Hawaii Papo Kaʻao /overview link, and it will take you there with all of the Hawaii Papo Kaʻao information inside. The first is leadership development. The second goal is community engagement. And the third is Hawaiian language and culture parity. Here at, I'm sure at the other campuses, but here on our campus at UHMC, it is part of our strategic directions. It is who we are and what we want to be better at. And that's why I thank you so much for coming, because it will help us to get better at it. I use this Olelo No'eau all the time because I believe that as we think about these different parts of the Kaʻao framework, it shows us more and more that ua lehu lehu a mano mano ka ikena a ka Hawaiʻi. that great and numerous is the knowledge of the Hawaiian people. Olelo no Eau run the gamut of Hawaiian outlook, environmental knowledge, family and personal behavior, and many, many other topics. There's a book called Olelo no Eau. I don't know what all the English part of it is, but it was collected by Pukui that has over 2,000 of these in there. So Olelo no Eau are an interesting way to look at how Hawaiians looked at their world. The many things that worked well for our kupuna can still work well for us today. The hundreds of years that it took for Hawaiians to develop and live a sustainable lifestyle within these islands are still wisdoms, behaviors, and practices that can be used today. The photos I have up for this particular Olelo no Eau shows but a brief amount of what we consider the ike of Hawai'i. Up in the left-hand corner, well, I think everybody's left-hand corner. It shows offerings at hula performance. Below it is what the kahuna la'au lapa'au, or the medical practitioner, needs to know. The middle photo not only talks about our social structure, which has to do with the ali'i class, but how the feather cloaks and capes were made out of hundreds and thousands of individual bird feathers. On the upper right has terraces of lo'i and the engineering that it took in order to feed close to 1 million people that lived on these islands at contact. And many of us are familiar with the open ocean voyaging and all that it took to have that occur. The Kaʻao framework is made out of these 4 particular areas: the hua, the ha'alele, huaka'i, and now we look at Hoʻi. Each of the sections have questions or things to think about. Each of the headings have questions or things to think about when we try and consider how can they be incorporated into what we do on a regular basis here at our college. The one that we will look at today is Hoʻi, the give back, the contribution, the reintegration back into the community. This is where the culmination of all that is learned is turned into practice, where their hua sees life, and where the reminder that their hua comes to fruition. The Kaʻao framework is not complete without the Hoʻi. There must always be a give back, a contribution to someone or someplace, a reintegration back into the community that you left, or the one that you choose to live in. It can also be a pay it forward. The Kaʻao framework is originally focused towards student success, and as such, we need to think about the total student experience. Today's conversation will be geared toward the 4th part of the framework, or the Hoʻi. While they were within colleges and universities, our scholars gained their degree, or they have gained some knowledge or ability. They are now armed with expertise, experience, skills, abilities, and newly found friends and colleagues. They found their hua. They experienced their ha'alele. They learned through their huaka'i, and now they are at their Hoʻi. Their now what? Part of their now what will be their job or vocation. But part of their now what must pay attention to their Hoʻi. This is what makes living a full and productive life so fulfilling. It is reaching back in order to reach forward. It is the time to revisit your hua. It is a time to revisit the community that sent you on your educational journey. It is a time to reach forward or pay it forward into the community that sustains you. It is a time to remember that they have just received their degree because of others, plus or minus. This is a very important Hawaiian philosophy. The idea that we are because of others, and these others must be remembered. So if the scholar got through their schooling because their sister babysat their children, this must be reciprocated. If a scholar got their degree because their community gave them scholarships, this must be remembered. If their degree or skill helps their community improve somehow, this too must be done. There must be some sort of contribution given back somehow. Over the course of these various presentations, we have shared the Kaʻao of how Maui slowed the sun. Today, we will share with you a Kaʻao that may be less known, the Kaʻao of Ai and Kuʻulakai. I would like you to, as usual, get out your piece of paper. And as I tell the Kaʻao, well, actually, John will tell the Kaʻao. As John tells the Kaʻao, think about the 4 parts of the Kaʻao framework and write down the parts of the Kaʻao as they fit into the 4 parts of the framework. With many of our Kaʻao, this particular Kaʻao is what some may consider an epic. And you may be able to identify more than one hua or ha'alele or even huaka'i. And like our students, their hua, ha'alele, or huaka'i may shift and change depending on where they are on their journey. So the 4 are listed there: hua, the big Y; ha'alele, separation and preparation; huaka'i, the journey, the experience, the transformation, and sometimes the sacrifice; and Hoʻi, the give back, the contribution, and the reintegration. I would like to start this part of the presentation with this mele. I chose this mele to begin this section as a reminder that we know that we came from the sea, whether over the vast ocean by canoes or from the A'ako'ako'a coral. We are also connected to the sea. It reminds us all that from the gods to the descendants of the chiefs, we come from the sea. This chant also shows us that we desire to live to a ripe old age, an age where a cane is needed, when the skin is dry, like a hala leaf, and when we are bent with age, that we will live well on these lands, be well fed, be well cared for, and be able to live life fully. So you see on the words you have in front of you, there's black words and there are blue words. The blue words are yours, okay? So all you guys over here, well, right now you're over here on me on the side panel. So all you folks over here, you are the blue words. So I'm gonna say the blue words so that you can hear how they go and then you can learn how to repeat it. And then we're going to do the chant together. So the blue words are Eia mai ke kai mai. Okay, I'm going to be able to see your lips move. So repeat after me. Ea mai,
Ea mai,
ke kai mai.
ke kai mai.
Okay, so that's what you're going to say, and I'll say it along with you when we get there. That's what you're going to say, and I will do all parts. So you don't have to you don't have to open your mic. You can mute your mic so that we can hear each. So you can hear me because I know what I'm doing, right? So you can hear me because I know what I'm doing, and we don't cancel out each other on our voices. Yeah. So mute your mic. I'll watch your lips move. And let's get started. It goes like this. O na kumua kua paui hanau ia kapo I kala hikiku. Eia mai ke kai mai. O na kumua liia paui hanau ia kapo I kala hikiku. Eia mai ke kai mai. O na lala liia paui hanau ia I kapo I kala hikiku. Eia mai ke kai mai. O na vela wa liia paui hanau ia I kapo I kala hikiku. Eia mai ke kai mai. O na pua liia paue ku e ola a kaniko o a palalau hala kolo pupu o ke ola ia. E ola e. So if you read below, it talks about each of those groups of people that we see that has come from the sea where the sun rises. So by and by, you can take a look at that when you get the video again and read more closely the next section. So I'd like to invite John Villarimo. And I invited John to come and present because in this particular story, it takes place, there are parts that come from Hana and parts that come from Molokaʻi, and that is John. He is from Hana and he currently lives in Molokaʻi.
Mahalo kumuhoku. So I will read it out loud because this is how kaʻaos are best delivered. In this particular picture, you'll see the spine of the giant puhi that we are going to be talking about in this kaʻao. So in a kaʻao that is perhaps less known, we learn of the expert fisherman Kuʻulakai, who is deified after his death. Because of his ingenuity, Kuʻulakai established the very first lokoʻiʻa, or fish pond, and koʻa, or altar for fish, in Lehoʻula Hana. As the favored and main lawaiʻa of Chief Kamohoaliʻi of Hana, Kuʻulakai always provided the best fish for the chief and his family. One day, Kuʻulakai noticed all the fish in his fish pond were gone and one of the walls were broken. He tasked his son, Ai, to find out what was the cause of all the fish disappearing. Ai discovered that a giant puhi, or eel from Molokaʻi, had come into the fish pond and eaten all the fish. At night, Ai proceeded to capture the puhi, drag it up on the shoreline at Lehoʻula, and killed it. So in this photo, you can see the iwi kuomoʻo, or the backbone of the puhi, still there to this day as a reminder of this very important kaʻao in our culture. Okay.
Okay, gang, those of you who have been with me before, again, every time I do this, I always cross my fingers. But this is our Slido game. And let's see how we go. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't played Slido before, you go to slido.com and that is the code that you will put in there. And hopefully the same questions come up. Yay! Okay, when we get one answer, then I know we did something good. don't really know how many people are on the group, but I know it's more than 10. So we're going to just wait a bit until we get a bunch. Joyce, how many people are on right now?
We have 24 people, including yourself.
Oh, so if we get 20, we're doing great. So we're only on 15. Everybody else take a guess. See, I remember this from last time, only now that I should find a song for when we have the one that's long. Yeah, there's one that we have that's long. I'm still waiting. We're at 19. Oh, goody. Okay. So let's see. Oi, oi, oi. So let's see how this goes. This is correct. Lehoʻula is the place in Hana that the giant puhi is on the rocks. I'm going to go back a little bit. You see it? You see the spine of the giant puhi in the rocks?
So if you're familiar with Hana, those of you who live on Maui or those who have visited Hana, if you're at Koki Beach near Hamoa and you see the island right outside, Alau Island, this rock is off to the left along the cliffs.
Okay.
Yeah. So unbeknownst to Ai and Ku'ulakai, the puhi was an aumakua of Wailau Moloka'i. Because of this, the kahu of the puhi used deception and manipulation to befriend Chief Kamohoali'i and convince the chief to have Ku'ulakai and his family killed. Hearing this, Ku'ulakai told Ai that once he died, all of the fish in the sea would disappear. He then gave Ai clear instructions on what to do so Ai could escape death. So in this photo, you can...
Oh, sorry.
Right.
I should have...
In this photo is a shot of Wailau Valley. And from what I was shared to by my brother-in-law, who is kama'aina to this area, this cliff side that juts out of the valley, there is a ana or a cave that the puhi came from. Ku'ulakai then instructed Ai that he would need to teach the people how to build ko'a to honor their gods, establishing fishing ground alignments for deep sea fishing, and construct places where fish could aggregate closer to the shoreline. In addition, Ku'ulakai taught Ai how to kilo i'a, how to spot schools of fish in the ocean, and how to read omens. His last instruction were for Ai to construct loko'i'a throughout all of the islands and for all of the different communities. So in this photo, we have different types of loko'i'a throughout Hawaii. The top right, I believe, is Ko'i'e Fish Pond in Kalepolepo, Maui. Lapakahi Fishing Village at North Kohala on Hawaii Island. And Kahinopohaku at Kumimi in Moloka'i on the eastern shores of Moloka'i.
Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about the things that Ku'ulakai told his son to do. All of the things listed here were tremendously important to make the ocean productive. Yeah, we often think about lo'i, and rightly so, lo'i kalo, as the important food provider for Hawaiians. but truly so, the ocean was as important, if not even more so. And what makes the ocean gathering, or what fishermen do, especially important is that other than the fish ponds, the controlling of the sea cannot be done. Yeah. So if there's, like we talked about last week, if it's rain, if the ocean is large, the fishing canoes cannot go out. So how do we feed our people when we have to rely on the bounty of the ocean? They did not go to deep ocean very much. If you talk to most Hawaiians, they really enjoy reef fishes. Yeah, they really enjoy reef fishes. Sure, if you get aku, you get mahi-mahi, you get ono, that's all top shape as well. But for everyday eating, the reef fishes is what we enjoy. So the ability of Ku'ulakai to teach his son how to make sure that fishes are available. He taught him how to make fish ponds. Oh yeah, and we had a really cool discussion, John and I. You know, the purpose of the fish pond is not to make fishes get fat. That's not the purpose of the fish pond. The purpose of the fish pond is to make algae, is to make limu, so that the fishes can eat. That's the function of the fish pond, is to make algae, to make limu. And that's why they're built where salt water and fresh water mix. They're at a certain depth that allows for the photosynthesis of the sun to create the limu as well, and to grow the food, so that when the little fish come in through the makaha, in through the gate, and then they get all fat, and then they can't get out because they're too fat. So the function of a fish pond is to make fish food. Yeah, not to make fish, but to make fish food. The purpose of the koa in the ocean, and again, much of them were closer to the shoreline, was to provide, in today language, the koa in the ocean are called the fish houses. Yeah, they're the fish house. So they provide a place for the fish to aggregate, to come and find food, so that when the fisherman wants to go and collect fish, they're all right there. Yeah, they don't have to go far. They just go, there's all the fish right there. So how Hawaiians created the way to harvest, truly so, harvest fish, was really amazing. As amazing as the engineering feats of the lo'ikalo were the engineering feats of the loko'i'a. So the loko'i'a, and if you look, John, can you fill us in a little bit about the loko'i'a that are around Moloka'i, are not in very deep waters?
Yeah, so if you are not too familiar with Moloka'i, Moloka'i is about 37 miles long in length. And starting from the west to the east, the entire south shore is just, I don't want to use the word litter, but littered with fish ponds right across the shoreline. And there, I believe the deepest most of those fish ponds go is at about 4 feet, 4 to about 5 feet. And there is always a freshwater source at the some area of a fish pond, and for that reason to create limu for fish to come in and feed off of. So, and there are so many lokoi, maybe not in production like it was Ikawaka Hiko, but if you were to fly over Molokai, you could see the remnants of all the fish ponds.
So what is described here in this part of the story tells of the depth and breadth of Ku'ulakai's knowledge when it came to raising fish and providing food through the ocean. And so he taught his son, and he required that his son go out and teach others.
Through a series of mishaps, Chief Kamohoali'i, along with his men who carried out his orders, as well as the kahu from Molokai, died. As Ku'ulakai foretold, at his death, all the fish in the ocean disappeared. I followed his father's instructions. He went out educating the people about Ku'ula, taught the importance of constructing ko'a and offering their catch to his father, who had been deified into the akua. I went across the Pai'aina teaching the people the wisdom of his fathers and the ingenuity of the lokoi'a. As I fulfilled his father's instructions, and as the people began to worship Ku'ulakai, the fish returned to the ocean. In this photo, in the background, is the fish pond, Ke'awa Nui fish pond, which is in full production today. This is about 17 miles from town, from Kaunakakai town, going towards the east end. Once I fulfilled the kuleana his father gave him, he returned home to Leho'ula in Hana. Through this journey, I was able to share with the people the multiple levels of knowledge and wisdom in providing for the community through fishing. This wisdom that I learned from his father and taught throughout the islands continued to be of great importance, and much of it is still used today.
So this, as I do in almost all of my presentation, this is the whole story all in one place. So in case you want to copy paste and use it as a whole story, this is it all in one place. So that's what this slide is. Okie dokie. So here we go. We're back on our Slido. What one word will help remind you of this kaʻao? Oh, sorry. Okay, start presenting. Wait. Is it working? No. See, this is the last time, this happened the last time. It says this is, I did say present with Slido and the poll will launch automatically. I did do that. Maybe just think about it. Anybody want to share what one word will help remind you of this kaʻao?
I think the father's name.
Ku'ulakai. Anyone else?
Nourishment.
Thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl said fish pond in the chat. Thanks, Rosie. Eel, yeah, the puhi guy.
So on our Slido, I can see everyone's response. Respect, fish pond, nourishment, puhi, ia, plentiful nourishment.
Okay. I don't know why I don't see it. Okay, so Lorene, someday I will get it. It's through no fault of hers, that's for sure. Ku'ula or loko'i'a. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to move on. Thank you. So what are these parts of the kaʻao? So what was the hua? Who wants to pipe in? You can just open your mic. What was the hua? Or if you want to write it in chat, you can do it. Either pipe it in or write it in chat, that's fine. Increase the abundance of the fish to feed the community. Exactly. What was his hua? What is his goal? What is his have to? What was his impetus? Sustain the community. How about doing what his father said? Yeah? Sometimes that's what hua is, because your father said or your mother said. Okay, then what is the ha'alele? What was his ha'alele? What was his leave behind? What was his gotta prepare? His preparation, his separation. Well, definitely he had to leave the comfort of his home. Yeah, when he went out and he did what his father asked him to do. Yes, leave Hana. And not only for Moloka'i, but he did this throughout the whole archipelago. He went and did fish ponds throughout the whole of the Pai'aina. Every place we know a fish pond to exist on Maui, on Oahu, on Kauai was because of Ai. Okay, so what is his huaka'i? Yeah, what was his sacrifice? What was his journey? His huaka'i, what he had to do was go throughout all the islands, teaching and establishing ko'a, loko'i'a, and the kiloi'a. We didn't really talk a little bit about the kiloi'a, but I'm going to talk about that a little later on. And then lastly, but certainly not the final, is what was his ho'i? Yeah, what was his give back? What was his pay it forward? What was his, yeah, educating others? Absolutely. Teach. Yeah, his contribution. Yeah. So I forgot to talk about the local, the kiloi'a. The kiloi'a is what we call today the fish spotter. Yeah, the fish spotter. And the kiloi'a usually positions themselves on some high promontory above the ocean, some point, some ledge, some high place, and they have the ability to read the ocean. They can see when the color of the ocean is different, that is where the fish are aggregating. Or maybe that little, what looks like wind blowing over the top surface of the ocean is really fish underneath. Yeah, so they can see what is happening inside the ocean by knowing what the surface and colors and the sky is telling them. Very special and needed ability. You know, today they kind of cheat. What happens today? What's the fish spotters today? To me, they kind of cheat. The fish spotter, they go up in airplanes. Or now they use, what you call those? Yeah, they go up and
They use drones.
Drones. Yeah, to me, they cheat. Yeah, because once you get up over them, you can see what's inside. The kiloi'a is only seeing from one vantage point and it's not right over. Yeah, so to me, they cheat, but you know, we use technology, we all good.
And then a little cool snippet about Kiloi'a. So again, if you're familiar with Hana and where the Akule Hale is, just near the ballpark, right below the hotel, near just above what we all know as Hana Bay, that was actually a traditional spot that I established for Kiloi'a, for those to spot fish from. And our community of Hana still uses that spot to look for akule when they come into the bay. And in speaking with my uncles who are Kiloi'a in Hana, just like Kumuhoku shared, they look for the color of the surface change to a red color, and that's when they know that the akule are in the bay, and then they send everybody out to surround the fish to feed the community. So just seeing that this practice and this area is still being used today, as we learned in this Kaʻao, shows the importance of all of this and why it's important to know these Kaʻao.
So how will, now that we have learned a bit about Hoʻi in the Kaʻao framework, and now you have connected the Kaʻao of II, how can this Kaʻao and this framework help us to help our students? The Kaʻao certainly illustrated II's great contribution to his community and the greater Pai'aina, and much of these contributions we still see and practice today. If you look at these questions, perhaps you can answer some of them in light of the Kaʻao as well. Do you help students think about our Hoʻi? Because usually that's not what we think of as educators. We usually think of their power with me, go forth young person into the world, yeah, and do good work. So, but do we help them know what that might be? You know, to help them know what is that good work that you can go into the world and do. So do you help your students think about their Hoʻi? How will you assist student awareness about where or how to do their Hoʻi? Or is that even your job? If you think that the Kaʻao framework is an important part of the learnings of a student's learning, Hoʻi is an important part of that as well. Yeah, you cannot pick and choose. Well, Hoʻi is hard, I'm not going to do that. No, you still got to do this. Yeah, so how will you assist your student awareness about where or how to do their Hoʻi? You know, some of us use our community assistance as part of our community input learning within our class as well. Yeah, your give back to the community. Can you direct your students to people or tools when thinking about their Hoʻi? Who can they, community education, where could they go to know about that? Do you have alternatives to your content delivery to cover the idea of Hoʻi. You know, Hoʻi also helps us to build within our students student leadership, yeah, which is one of the Hawaii Papaʻokeao goals, student leadership. So if we think of Hoʻi as a way to help build student leadership, how might that work through what you do in your classroom? This olelo no'eau, ike aku, ike mai, kokua aku, kokua mai, pela I hola ka nohona ohana. Recognize and be recognized, help and be helped. Such is family life. In a Hawaiian way of thinking, family life is community life. They are not separated. Family life is community life. What you have learned through experiences, gotten your degree in, or learned in your ohana should be shared with the community. So if we look at these photos from the lower left, this is teaching at a Hawaiian language preschool. What is your Hoʻi? You know, if you're learning Hawaiian language, Hawaiian culture, maybe volunteering, if that's not your for real job, maybe volunteering in the school will be helpful for your give back. Maybe going on huaka'i or excursions with the kids, because they would need people that speak Hawaiian where they go into a community that may not be Hawaiian speakers. The next one over is the fish pond at He'eia, and we were just talking about fish ponds. That fish ponds, just like lo'i, just like any place else, needs constant care. And if you looked at all of the fish pond pictures that we showed, they are humongous. They could be acres and acres wide. Keeping the wall strong, being able to help pass rocks to shore up a broken place in the wall are all important parts of giving back to the community. The one on the right is testing for water quality. Yeah, that's an important part that you can use to give back to your community. Ocean quality, river water quality. If that is your ike, if that is your intelligence, if that is what your learning is, you can help in testing water to make sure that everything is the way that it needs to be. And the one above is cleaning the ocean. Yeah, of the kinds of limu or debris that don't belong inside the ocean. Yeah, that's what these folks are doing. You can be a leader in helping this happen. You can also put your blood, sweat, and tears in it, but you can also help to design and lead in occasions such as this. Okay, so Joyce, what did you say about you can see it?
Say again.
What did you say that on my other one when I couldn't see it, but you said you could see it?
Oh, it's because it's questions. And so therefore, the questions come out on ours. So on my Slido, it was, I think, asked in the form of us asking questions. So that's where I see it.
Okay, so we're just gonna push on through, and I'm gonna, you know, this is my last one, and you think I would have gotten it by now. I got it last time, but now this time I'm just not on it again. Oh, there's so much for us to learn, isn't there? There's so much for us to learn. So I would like you to think about, and if you want to put it into chat, you certainly may. Share one way that you can assist students when thinking about their Hoʻi. Yeah, one way that in your class or in whatever you do, because you know John and I don't really have a class, we develop a program that will help our students think about their Hoʻi. Because again, of all the things that are in the standard student success models, they don't really think about Hoʻi too much. So maybe we want to think about how do we help our students find a Hoʻi for them, either when they have all of their information and their degree and they go out into the community, but even what they might be learning and doing now, that they can provide a little bit of help or expertise into our community. Yes, tie the subject matter to their career, and how might that be of assistance as well. Okay, mahalo. I'm going to move. Yes, Bobby.
Well, you know, I was thinking through activities we do with our students and just talking to them and reminding them of how important their stories are, and in sharing their stories and experience helps others. Like that they don't know how they're helping or what effect, but how important it is to share, and that everyone has a gift to share.
Exactly. They don't even know someone would be in their same shoes.
Right.
Yeah, and what they shared as a way that they got through it can be helpful for someone else as well. Every little bit helps. See themselves as change agents. I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. It all has to do with we exist here together. Yeah, how are we going to help this life be good for all of us? So I'm going to move on. Thank you. So now let's talk a bit about your kaʻao. Yeah, this is what we talked about over the last 3 weeks. Your dream, your ha'alele, your huaka'i, and the questions that you might have been thinking about when looking at these different parts. Let's take a quick look at the kaʻao framework from our individual needs. Maybe some of these questions fit your situation, maybe not, but it might be something worth thinking about. If we look at the kaʻao framework as your journey in life and work, maybe we can find out how it might work for our students also. Can the kaʻao framework be a guide for your success too? Let's look first at it through the lens of your work at your campus. The questions posed here are to help you think about kaʻao in your professional life, but it can also lead to questions you can pose about your personal life as well. Okay, the kaʻao framework, especially now as you look at the Hoʻi part, can really help you think about your own journey and the experiences you have had and are still having. And then, have you considered your Hoʻi? Have you considered how and if you are giving back to the community you are living in or the community that you came from? Perhaps this will help you consider the same needs within your own students. So your kaʻao. Depending where you are, maybe your Hoʻi could also change. Maybe at one time you returned to your home community and provided contributions there with the knowledge that you gained. Perhaps if you moved a bit, you provided some contribution to the communities that you lived in. And now that Hawaii is your home, you look for ways to contribute to the community that gives to you. Whatever the instance might be, give back or contribution to the community that gives you life is essential when taking the Kaʻao framework into your work and personal life. We cannot forget those who have helped bring us to this point, and we cannot forget those that nurture us currently. The aina, the sea, the wai, the people, and the akua provides for the quality of our lives here on these islands. We must honor and support them too. E lawe Kaʻao a mālama e oi mau kana awao. He who takes his teachings and applies them increases his knowledge. I believe this Olelo No'eau tells us what we must do with the degrees, knowledge, and skills that we have gained. It tells us first that we must use them. We must apply them. We must share them. Secondly, it tells us that when we do this, more knowledge will occur. This supports the other Olelo No'eau that says, makahana ka'ike. By doing, one learns. As educators, we know that learning never ends. I think we each revel in learning new things, and it is a good thing. This Olelo No'eau tells us that it is what should happen. I chose this picture because it also shows us that as Hawaiians, we believe that we are the sum total of all those that came before us, that they are within us too, and they will help us because we are their descendants. We need informed and inspired teachers to provide knowledge and skills for us. And then our ancestors can help too. And likewise, we will become part of our descendants' knowledge into the future. We will contribute to them and to the community they will live in. Knowing that there should always be a Hoʻi, a give back, a contribution, a pay it forward, a reintegration back into the community, a use of the knowledge and skill you have gained for the community. I always close with this slide. I always want to remind us that we have chosen Hawaii to be our home. It is where we live. It is where we do life. As such, Hawaii becomes the foundation of our world. Whatever happens here will and does affect us and everything around us. By thinking about the Kaʻao framework as framework for student success, we can also think about it as a framework for our own individual success. Mahalo. So does anyone have any questions or comments that they would like to share? I'm going to try and save everyone's comments over here in the chat. Okay. Anybody have anything they would like to share, or was Hoku talking out of her ear? John wasn't. John wasn't talking out of his ear, but maybe Hoku was talking out of her ear. So have you thought about Hoʻi in this manner? Yeah, how Hoʻi is how we should also be, but also how we can help our students be a part of their community that they live in. Yeah, which is important, which is important. We are island people. We live on this island, and you know, since COVID, we even more so have thought about the palama, yeah, the enclosure that is around us that protects us. Yeah, the palama is this enclosure that is around us that protects us. Even more so, we have thought about our island. Yeah, we're not flying all over creation. You know, the funny thing, I fly a lot. I used to fly a lot every weekend, or every other weekend I was somewhere. But, you know, our island home has become increasingly important to us. Yeah, and hopefully this is what we know, that Hoʻi will help us help our island home. Okay, I think ha'ina ia mai ana kapuana. Mahalo all of you for coming and going through the Kaʻao framework with me all of these weeks. And hopefully some parts of it will be useful to you. Mahalo. Okay, Joyce.